Hey everybody, welcome to the Orange and Brown Talk podcast here on a Wednesday, recording this on Tuesday about 6:45. Dan Labbe and Mary Kay Cabot with you. Lance Riesland is going to be on in the second half to look back at the film from that game on Sunday against the Bills. But we are going to start with some of the news of the day. And Mary Kay, not a surprise here, but let's just start with Deshaun Watson. He will not be activated, so he will finish the season on the PUP list. We had been joking all summer, even early in the season, that there was that like 0.0001% chance we might see Deshaun Watson start a game this season for the Cleveland Browns. That will not happen. We go into the offseason now with Deshaun Watson on the roster. And I think the question here is like, what does this look like moving forward now? Now that the Browns have seen him on the practice field, they're not going to see him play this year. What does this look like moving forward with Deshaun?
Well, it's going to be very, very interesting. First of all, they got a good look at him, and I've gotten really, really good reviews on what he looked like in practice when we were not there. People looked out there and some people told me that they felt he was the best quarterback or the most talented quarterback on the field while he was out there. Well, it's not that surprising because he's a 3-time Pro Bowler. And you and I have said this many times before. Pro Bowlers look different when you watch them practice. The ball comes out differently. They move differently. Their footwork is different. So he has looked very, very good out there. And I think that's good information for the Browns as they move into next season. Now, what does this mean for next season? It all depends on what happens with Shedeur Sanders. If Shedeur Sanders is the Browns quarterback of the future and he has started 7 games to end this season, I think he's starting game 1 next year. Now, there is a world in which they watch him go throughout the offseason and think maybe, okay, maybe he needs a little bit more time and a little bit more seasoning, but I don't see that happening. If he's on this football team, I think he's starting week 1 next year. I think they'll look at it and say he needs a better offensive line, a better supporting cast, and he's ready to roll. In that scenario, Deshaun Watson is the backup. Now, if the Browns get to the end of this whole process, they get to seeing where they land in the draft, and they see which quarterbacks are coming out, and if they decide to draft a quarterback, then there's a world in which Deshaun Watson could start the season as their bridge quarterback while they bring along Fernando Mendoza or Ty Simpson or Dante Moore. So we'll have to see how all that goes. And then in that case, what happens with Shedeur Sanders? If they decide to draft a quarterback high like that with one of those first 3 or 4 picks, they have to make a decision on what they want to do with Shedeur Sanders. I'm guessing at that point that Shedeur Sanders would want to go somewhere else and play. But I don't know if the Browns would accommodate him in that scenario. I don't know. I don't know. It's all very interesting the way that this has a chance to play out. But the thing that we do know is that Deshaun's going to be here. It's the final year of his contract. He's got an $80 million cap charge. Hard to get out of it. They'll restructure it at some point so it doesn't hit 80 all next year. That's a lot. They can spread it out over the void years. It doesn't mean they're handing him $80 million next year. It just means that that's the cap charge. So it's going to get interesting. But what the Browns saw in these 3 weeks leads them to believe that Deshaun Watson has something left in the tank and that perhaps he could end up playing football for them next season at some point.
Yeah, that discussion we've had about how it just looks different when Pro Bowlers practice. I mean, it's kind of hard to describe, but I remember when he first showed up, like it looked different. Like the ball came out of his hand differently. It was like the accuracy, all of that stuff in practice. You can tell that a guy is just different. I mean, Myles Garrett is a guy like that, right? You watch Myles Garrett run through the bags. It's like he looks a little different than Sam Kamara running through those bags. And it's the same way at that quarterback position too. The Shedeur thing is fascinating because if they do decide to draft a rookie, the other question they have to answer is, do they want to deal with the Shedeur circus that would come with making that decision and all the outside noise that would come with making that decision to essentially move on from Shedeur, but still have him on the roster? He was certainly I mean, there were times when he was the backup this year and he became the story for a week, right? They're going to London for Dylan Gabriel's first start. And one of the big stories that week was Shedeur Sanders' mime press conference. So do the Browns want to deal with that? For all we can say about Deshaun Watson, at least this year specifically, he was certainly not a distraction. Like we didn't hear a lot from him. We didn't obviously didn't talk to us at all. He just kind of was here doing his rehab, doing his work, and all the reviews, what you were saying on the practice field, but also just what people were telling us about how he was in the meeting rooms and all of that. All of those were positive. And if that's the case, and they really like what he brings in the meeting room, maybe it's not a bad idea to have him around for a Dante Moore or a Fernando Mendoza or whoever they draft. So it it really just adds another layer to this, and that it all kind of starts with the decision they make on Shedeur, who's making those decisions, what some new coach or new GM would want to do with Deshaun. I don't know. It's a lot of the I don't know yet until we know who's making the decisions. But I think it is in play that he could be a bridge or at least be a guy that's in that meeting room every week or every day to help this rookie come along.
Yeah, and you know what? He has had a tremendous impact on Shedeur Sanders. Part of the reason that Shedeur Sanders has been able to assimilate the game plans and go out there and perform as well as he has, it has something to do with the help that he has received from Deshaun. Deshaun has helped Dylan. He has helped Shedeur. He's probably, I'm sure, even helped Bailey Zappi, who's a fourth-year pro. He's been really good in the meeting rooms to the point where Bill Musgrave, the quarterbacks coach, has said, I don't know what we'd do without him. You need that veteran presence. I've had so many people tell me how important it is to have a veteran quarterback in the room. It's just important. So even next year, no matter who else is in that room, to have Deshaun in there is going to be vitally important to the development of those quarterbacks. You just can't get that stuff from your coaches. You can't do it because there's certain things that you will say to each other that you're not going to say to a coach. And there's certain things that you can express or certain things that you can learn from a quarterback who's been out there doing it fairly recently that you're not going to get from a coach. And I really, truly believe what they're saying. And that's one of the reasons why he does have a chance to get back on the football field in the event that they need a bridge quarterback is because of how he has handled this year. He is in such good standing with this football team that it's not even funny. I mean, have you heard one person say anything other than glowing things about Deshaun Watson this whole entire year?
No, well, no. And then on top of that, like no one has I can't think of anyone who's had the opportunity to talk about him and just sort of been like, yeah, he's been fine. You know what I mean? Like it feels like we're getting real answers from guys when they don't have to give real answers. They just praise him effusively. So, and we're not talking about the GM here who's maybe playing mind games or we're talking about position coaches. We're talking about coordinators. We're talking about guys that have no vested interest other than just answering a question. Like they are going out of their way to say these things about him publicly.
They are. And the other thing to consider is even though Jimmy Haslam made his swing and a miss comment at the NFL annual meetings in March, the truth of the matter is that he really likes Deshaun Watson and attended his wedding. Dee and Jimmy Haslam attended Deshaun and Jilly Aeneas's wedding in July.
Yeah, that
You're
was
not
after the swing and the miss comment.
Yes. You are not attending someone's wedding if you don't care for them. And he likes them. So he's got support all the way at the top of the organization. And I think the Browns recognize that some of what went wrong with Deshaun Watson had to do with a fractured shoulder and two Achilles tears. So I just think that they still believe that he has something left in the tank, and one way or the other, he will be here on this roster next year, which I've been reporting that for many months. But he will be here, and he will contribute in some way, whether it's on the field or as a football mentor.
And some of it too just comes down to simple, like, asset allocation. I mean, I don't know how much money the Browns are gonna end up having to spend this offseason, but it's not gonna be some endless amount. So, why would you go out and spend, I don't know, 5 to 7 or $8 million on a veteran quarterback if you've got one in the building that is eating up a ton of your cap space anyway? You might as well get some, if he's going to be around and on the roster and costing you that much money, you might as well get some value out of it. You might as well, even whether it's just being a bridge guy, whether it's being the backup, being whatever it is, kind of all the work he's done this year to kind of get back in the good graces of this organization after, I mean, you've said this on the pod, it did rub some people the wrong way that he ruptured that Achilles and then he was, in Miami doing his rehab. The fact that he came back and has been so committed to being in Cleveland, being a part of this team, and has kind of worked his way back into everybody's good graces. You might as well get something out of that money you're spending on the guy.
Absolutely 100%. And this is another reason why this organization would be overjoyed if Shedeur Sanders can be their quarterback of the future. Because if you can have your quarterback on a rookie contract with fifth round pick money, which is peanuts, it's nothing. I mean, if you have a chance to look it up, uh, maybe you can look up the contract while I'm talking, and just give people a sense of how. Now, I know if he becomes their starter, there's no way that the Sanders team and the group isn't going to come and try to redo that contract and try to get some more money out of the deal.
But I actually don't think, I'm looking it up now. I don't think you can reopen a rookie contract. I think it's
Well,
got to
maybe
get
not.
through. You can only negotiate after 3 years. You can do an extension, but I don't think you
Okay,
can reopen
that's
a
right.
rookie deal.
Yeah, I don't think you can. So if they can pay him peanuts, peanuts over the next couple of years, uh, after what they had to pay Deshaun and were not able to get much out of it. They've gotten 9 victories for their $230 million. Um, they would love that. They would absolutely love that. It would offset what happened with Deshaun if all of the sudden Shedeur Sanders turns into the guy. And I think right now, at this moment, at this very moment, I think he is trending towards, let's not misinterpret what I'm saying here, trending towards having that opportunity to be that guy. He's trending that way right now.
So next year, his cap hit is 1.116. Then it's 1.2 in 2027 and 1.3 in 2028. I'm rounding those down a little, but it's 1.1, 1.2, and 1.3 essentially.
Yeah.
And that's the Brock Purdy model. Now, obviously, they weren't navigating a huge quarterback contract. Well, they had Jimmy Garoppolo. So that's the Brock Purdy model. That's the Russell Wilson model. Third round pick who was your starter, and then you just spent a bunch of money on your defense. It just creates so much more flexibility, and also even if you wanted to keep Shedeur around and still draft a first round quarterback, like that's not because he's so cheap, that doesn't necessarily exclude that either. There's obviously the other stuff that we talked about. You have to consider, how would it be if he ends up being the backup again and all of that. But it, he's so cheap, it doesn't preclude you from doing anything really.
No, it really doesn't. And that's such a good debate. And we have had this debate in the Browns media room. Can you keep Shedeur around and still go out and draft a quarterback with one of the top 5 picks that you're going to have? And by the way, that pick might get worse this weekend if the Steelers don't have anything to play for, but we'll get into that in a little bit. But if you have a top 3, 4, 5 pick in the draft, and you choose to draft Fernando, Dante, or Ty, can you keep Shedeur Sanders around? It's a wonderful debate. I don't know. What do you think? I mean, are you prepared to answer that right now?
I don't. I don't think you can. But maybe that's just me on the outside who just doesn't want to deal with all that noise and all of the, those Twitter mentions. And just every time you say anything about Shedeur, you can't say anything, even normal things about Shedeur Sanders, right? So maybe that's just me on the outside. Maybe on the inside, they don't feel all that. But I think because I don't think Shedeur is like in the locker room sowing sowing that discontent. I think it is coming just all outside noise. But no, I think you would be putting I think it was unfair to Dylan Gabriel. Um, I wouldn't have taken Dylan over Shedeur, but the Browns did. And I think it was unfair to him when they brought Shedeur into this. And I think it would be unfair to Dante Moore or Fernando Mendoza or any other rookie that you're going to hand the keys to have to deal with all that noise. So I would say no, you can't.
Yeah, the thing about Shedeur is that he just is a different animal when it comes to media attention and social media attention. It's different. It's very, very different. And I don't think you can sweep that under the rug. I don't think you can ignore the fact that he's larger than life in so many ways. And, he does have that sort of, Tim Tebow-ish effect, or that Johnny Manziel effect when the circus came to town with Johnny. He brings with him something big and powerful that would be very difficult to deal with if you were trying to throw all of your support behind a number one pick. So I actually do think at this point that it probably is going to have to become an either or situation. And I didn't really necessarily feel that way even a couple of weeks ago, because it's sort of hard to describe, but I feel like if you have a top 5 pick, in my mind, there's almost nothing that I think is worth it except for a quarterback. I,
Well,
I
and
just I just don't think there's anything you can get unless you trade it down and you turn it into a couple more, a bunch more picks.
yeah. Well, we'll be debating that for months too, right? That'll be the debate for months too. But I think too, the other part of that, if you take a quarterback, let's say they end up with the second pick and they take a quarterback with the second pick, everything you do has to be built around making that guy successful. And so
Right.
that brings into the equation, does having Shedeur Sanders and everything that comes with him, whether it's his fault or not, does having him in your building and having and putting your backup quarterback in that position where I mean Dylan Gabriel has gotten booed twice when he's come into the game for injury. Now the coaches
Hmm.
just like Shedeur has had to leave the game. Dylan Gabriel's the backup and he's come in
Hmm.
for like one play and he's gotten booed both times.
Hmm.
You can't put your rookie quarterback through that.
Mm-mm. I don't think you can. And so I do think that this is going to come down to, like, when we get to the end of the season and we know that Shedeur Sanders has started 7 games, at that point, you can't even say and ask the Cleveland Browns, like, on getaway day or whatever, "So, what do you think? Do you think he's your guy?" You can't do that because you have to see who's coming out in the draft first. You have to see who's coming out, and they will know that by, like, January 23rd, I think is when they'll know that. So by the time we all head down to the Senior Bowl, and you really should go to the Senior Bowl this year with me, Dan. You really need to go to the Senior Bowl. Anyway,
We'll try.
that's a story for another day. But by January 23rd, that is when, if you are in the national championship game, this you can wait until then to declare if you're coming out. So that's when all of this should be wrapped up and we'll have an idea of exactly which of these quarterbacks are coming out and which are not. And it's not as many as we all originally thought it was going to be, right? I mean, in the summer, everyone wondered if Arch Manning was coming out. That's not happening. You know what I mean? It's like, I just don't think that there will be as many, of course, as we thought there would be. And that opens up the whole discussion about, do you wait until 2027, give Shedeur a chance to see what he can do in 2026? Then you can come back at it in 2020. But you can't count on 2027 either. Because, I mean, do you really want to win 3 games again in 2026 to get a high first round pick again? I mean, who can survive that again? But anyways, so I think it will come down to the quarterback that you can get your hands on versus Shedeur Sanders. The quarterback that you can get versus Shedeur Sanders. And I think that each week Shedeur has taken a step up, except for the Bears game was a step back. But then he really made nice strides in this past game. And I think that if he can do that 2 more times, and I don't think I'll tell you what, if the Steelers rest a bunch of their starters on Sunday, the Shedeur Sanders hype train is gonna be off the charts. It's gonna be off the charts because it will be a lot easier, obviously, to look good if he doesn't have to play the Steelers starters, Cam Hayward and Alex Highsmith and Nick Herbig, and we don't know about TJ Watt. But if you don't have to play those guys, makes your life a whole lot easier. So I don't even know if they're going to get as good of an eval on Sunday as they would like to get for him. But the Browns will have to take a leap of faith. After these 7 games, they're going to have to put everything in the hopper and decide, can he be the guy based on what we've seen?
Well, and the other part of that too is then the Steelers get to ruin the Browns draft position and, and all of that fun stuff. There's
Right?
the Raiders and Giants play on Sunday afternoon, so that's part of it too. So real quick, I do want to touch on this because you just put up a post. Of course, the Steelers, if the Ravens on Saturday night lose,
Mhm.
then the Steelers clinch the AFC North.
Yeah,
Um,
loser good.
Yes. Now, if the Ravens win, then the Steelers still have to win that game on Sunday to clinch the AFC North, and then the Steelers and Ravens play Week 18. So Pittsburgh will want to get that division clinched if Baltimore wins on Saturday night. But if they lose, the Steelers would be coming into Cleveland, and that game would mean nothing, which sets up a little bit of a spicy
Mhm.
storyline that you asked in your headline on this story, and that could be Myles Garrett setting this sack record potentially against Mason Rudolph, who, as we all know, is a very large part of Myles Garrett's story. So just a little kind of spicy story. I mean, that's what we're all watching is Myles Garrett's sack record. If you're a Browns fan, if you're covering the Browns, it's all about Myles Garrett's sack record. So that's a little spicy addition there to his quest to break that record.
It is so bizarre that this might set up like this. I mean, think about it. Myles Garrett and everybody else was convinced he was getting that record on Sunday. Everybody was convinced that he was going to get that record, and it absolutely did not happen against Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. I mean, if you look at the way Myles ran out of the tunnel, he was coming out to get the record, right? He had family there. The Browns had a video queued up. There was no doubt in anybody's mind he was getting that record on Sunday. And now the universe has conspired to make it entirely possible that he gets the record by sacking Mason Rudolph, whom he has bad blood with from Helmetgate, right? I mean, you couldn't you couldn't make this up. I mean, you can't make this stuff up, can you?
We're just all in the content machine.
I mean, my goodness. It's just almost mind-blowing because who would think that, even when he didn't get it on Sunday, all of our minds went to, "Oh, he's gonna get the record next week at home against Aaron Rodgers." I certainly at that point, I didn't have the playoff scenarios in my mind, and I didn't realize that it could set up where the Steelers might you were talking about it after the game, though. You were talking about the fact that the Browns
Yeah,
might
well, it was
you know
also because the Ravens were playing Sunday night, so we didn't know right away either what the Ravens situation was
Right,
gonna be.
right. So, here they are now with the Ravens playing on Saturday night, and they're playing in Lambeau Field against the 9-5 Packers, who are also I don't know their exact playoff scenario either, but they're playing for a playoff spot as well. I don't know exactly what their situation is, but um, it's just an unbelievable storyline that he might end up getting that record against Mason Rudolph, and those two guys were already inexorably linked for the rest of their lives over the helmet situation, and now Miles could possibly get that record. Now, I'll tell you what, if I'm Mike Tomlin, I am not starting my 42-year-old quarterback in Cleveland on Sunday if the Steelers have clinched the division. I'm not doing it. 42 years old against Myles Garrett, who is going to be gunning for him to get that record. Not happening. But I don't know. I don't know what Mike Tomlin will do, but I think it's entirely possible that he will rest his starting QB and a lot of others as well.
It's gonna be that's listen, I guess this was always destined to be, right? Like, these weird things just always they just always seem to happen, and this would be a very interesting way for Myles Garrett to break that sack record, against Mason Rudolph. Even Farron only played, like, the first half, and then Mason came in the second half. Like, it just seems like it's on the table that this could be the big topic on Sunday when we're talking to Myles Garrett after the game. So stay tuned to cleveland.com/Browns because we'll cover it all. Mary Kay has written that story like 4 times, the Myles Garrett sack record story. So this is something else to add to that, Mary Kay.
Oh, I have to do it all over again, Dan.
Time
Hey,
number
should we talk
5.
about Pro Bowl a little bit before we go?
Oh yeah, real quick. Miles and Denzel make it. Carson Schlesinger is an alternate. Harold Fannon's an alternate. Quinshon Judkins an alternate. Joel Bitonio kind of gets he gets the shaft a little bit here because it's not a real game anymore. It's some sort of, I don't even know what it is anymore, but they don't do alternate linemen or anything like that. So poor Joel Bitonio doesn't get the honor.
I know, and he deserved it. I mean, he really is playing at a Pro Bowl level. I asked Kevin Stefanski about him today, and he said not only is he a Pro Bowler again, but he is a Hall of Famer. And I thought that was really interesting that he said that. And I also thought that Carson Schlesinger should have made the Pro Bowl as a starter or a backup, not just an alternate. Because if anybody really sat down and watched him this year, I don't know. I don't even know who made it ahead of him, but he's in my mind playing as well as any linebacker in the NFL this season. Do you know who
Yeah,
made it?
I would have to look, but
Well,
he's
he's a
been
rookie, and it's hard to make it as a
he's a
rookie.
rookie on a 3-win football team. That's really the problem.
No, you're right. He's a rookie on a 3-win football team, and that is difficult. But if you just look at his film and isolate on that, certainly playing at a Pro Bowl level.
And we'll also mention Grant Delpit, a special teams alternate. And I think that's meaningful because obviously he sort of has embraced playing special teams for this group, and they need bodies on that special teams unit. We know that, and he's been a guy that's really sort of embraced doing that. So I'm sure he'd rather make it as a safety, but to be an alternate as a special teamer, I think says something about sort of his approach this season and his kind of I'm going to do anything to help the team approach this year. So good for him, finally getting that honor as well. So
Yes.
all right, that won't do it for this edition. We're actually going to take a break. I still have Lance Risland. It's actually already recorded. I can't just throw that away. We got Lance Risland coming up on the other side of the break. I'll let Mary Kay go here. And when we come back, Lance will break down that film from the Bills game. Welcome back to the Orange and Brown Talk podcast, and we welcome on, as we do every Tuesday, Lance Risland. Lance, how are you?
I'm doing very well, Dan. How are you today, buddy?
Doing well. All right, let's do it. Let's look back on that Bills game. A lot of talk about, the approach the Browns took in that game. Of course, the Bills are a passing defense that doesn't give up a lot of big plays. You could tell that Shedeur Sanders had to be patient in that football game, had to kind of take what was in front of him. Just overall as a whole, when you went back and rewatched what you saw from Shedeur, what did you think?
Well, I thought you did a great job. The check down is always thought of, or the word game manager is always thought of as a negative connotation. You and I have talked about that a bunch. That's what he had to do in this game. They kept a lot of safety, 1 or 2. They kept them deep. He had to check down in front. They did a really nice job of disguising coverage. I thought he did a good job of going pre-snap to post-snap, better than he's done. And they gave him those checkdowns. And so many times I remember watching the game, and I try to get in a flow, but a lot of 2nd and 5s, 3rd and 4s. Those are so important for a young quarterback. So I thought he did that very well. I thought he used his feet. He's not a runner, but his 3rd and mediums, the ability to get first downs are huge. I thought he did a really good job with that. So he took the checkdowns. I thought he used his feet, and then finally, I thought he stepped up in the pocket. Those bad habits of retreating, um, you know, they're going away, which tells you he's working, and he's not only is it a credit to him, but it's a credit to his coaches, and most importantly, his ability to be coached. So I thought that was my thoughts on the offense, defense, gap integrity, and the edge. They're really struggling with right now for some reason. Um, and obviously, I think it's the loss of Malik Collins, loss of gap integrity inside, not setting the edge, and they didn't tackle as well as they've tackled. That's kind of my thought process as I've gotten through the film a couple times.
So as I rewatched on Monday morning, it was, I didn't see a lot of moments where he just wasn't seeing guys downfield, right? I mean, I know there's been a lot of talk about his passing chart going around, his depth of target in this game. I didn't feel like there were a ton of opportunities downfield for him. There's maybe a play. There was one play where maybe he could have hit Jerry Judy on one, and a couple of moments here and there. But I think that ability to just sort of take what was there and keep the offense moving was important. The real problem was that second interception. And there were just a couple moments in this game where it's like you can't do that. And that second interception, when you see it, when you see that shot from behind, and the ball ends up going, you see Joey Bosa over here to the right, and there's two guys directly in front of Shedeur that he is almost looking right at, two Browns receivers, and he doesn't throw to them. Those are the areas where it's like you've got, like, that cannot happen if you want to be successful in this league.
Well, I think of it as when the ball was tipped. You said it very well. He's got to get rid of that earlier. But the ball being tipped, I never really put on quarterbacks because regardless of their height, you don't throw over top of people. You always throw through lanes. So I think you said it best. So the tip didn't bother me. It was the timing of it. He was way off on the timing. The first interception I have a problem with as well because of who you're throwing to and where that ball was located. It was located on the back shoulder. That's really hard for a running back who's taking a pounding all game to reach. You got to make those throws now. I'm sure Judkins would say I should have caught it. And it wasn't like it was an awful throw. And when things go bad, they pop up in the air. When things are going well for you, they go down on the ground like that. That's part of football. They, kick you while you're down when you're struggling kind of thing. But, the tip didn't bother me. It was not seeing it when he should have. I agree with you there. But I actually think the first one was more egregious because that's his thing, accuracy. They were in a man. It looked like man. They dropped to a Tampa 2. He came down, checked it really right. And then for some reason, just threw a rifle shot the back shoulder Judkins. So both, again, it's kind of that ups and downs, that those hills and valleys he's going through right now. He's got to be more accurate with the ball, especially when he's not throwing to a receiver.
See, that's interesting. I thought the second one was worse. Now I think he missed on the first one, but I thought the second one, I mean, Cedric Tillman and another receiver are right in front of him. And for some reason, he looks at him and doesn't throw the ball, and then he throws to his right. And that's where, like, Joey Bosa shouldn't even have been in that play. But he brought Joey Bosa into that play because he didn't throw to the two guys that were directly in front of him.
Well, I think, for me, when I look at it, and I'll go back and look again, but that's a chip play that a fan was supposed to chip, and he gets beat inside, and a quarterback will learn the only way, he's got to spread extend that pocket a little bit wider if he needs to. And obviously he doesn't think Fannon's going to lose that block inside. That would be my thought process on it. So as he's going through his stuff, he's got to make sure he understands that, and how is that being coached? Does he know if he gets beat, he can only get beat inside? Should he extend the pocket? Those are things we don't know, and there's different launch points, etc. But for me, it was, he gets beat inside. Joey Bosa beats Fannin inside, and that's kind of a chip, and then he's going to be the first level of that concept. So once again, I just think the timing's off, and as you're going through progressions, I think he does have a little bit of, a little bit gun shy, and wants to make sure that things are wide open. And I appreciate that coaching ability, but once again, those are really hard in real time. I thought that one wasn't as bad just because the first one was an easy throw, put it in space, get out in front, and your running back can run with it. But no interceptions are good. Let's put it that way.
All right, let's get back to the defensive side of the ball. Like you mentioned, you thought there were some gap integrity issues. And again, the Bills really gashed this team, especially in the first half on the ground. We've talked so much about the loss of Malik Collins, and I do think that's important, but I think it's a little concerning if Malik Collins was the guy that was holding this whole thing together. What can they fix here as they move forward over these last 2 weeks?
All right, so I wrote in my notes. I have the first thing is that they're not setting the edge. So the backers are always worried about running to the edge because the defensive ends are getting pinned down by formation. So they're widening that tight end, pinning them down, kind of like the pin and pull we did with Njoku for a lot of years. So they got to figure out what the alignment's got to be there because they're getting killed with that week in and week out. Then inside, the guys have to play on the line of scrimmage a little bit. That's tough because of the scheme, but they got to play on the line of scrimmage a little bit, knowing that their edge is not as strong as it once was for some reason. Then they got to tackle better. That is absolutely the case. They did not tackle. So if you go over the 44-yard touchdown run, that was a counter play. The center pulls and the backside tight end pulls. Shelby Harris actually takes the center and runs into the pooler. So the pooler is not there for the first linebacker in the box. The second linebacker in the box usually belongs to the double team. So the right guard and the right tackle, they're in charge of the three technique to the number two linebacker who's opposite the play. Well, because they were in a bare front, they had everybody covered. There was no run running to number two. They just couldn't do it. And that sometimes happens with the front. You got to block the line of scrimmage first. So as the play happens, the backside puller doesn't get there because Shelby Harris runs into him. So he takes the center and the puller, and the front didn't allow him to get the two. And I'm going to send you the post today. Schlesinger and Diabate are standing in the hole unblocked, and they both just miss. And that can't happen. You got to make that tackle. So the front was really good front for counter. Shelby Harris penetrated. So if you're gonna penetrate upfield, that's kind of the hit or miss with it. Sometimes you're gonna get trapped, but then sometimes you knock off poolers and things like that. That's kind of the idea of penetrating style defenses. So, and they're not tackling in secondary. Harden's had a couple of tough weeks of tackling. Schlesinger's always been good. He had a couple misses. Diabate is really struggling in space right now, tackling in space. And Devin Bush is kind of slowed down just a little bit. So you get the combination of losing some guys. Everybody's not quite playing at the pace they were. They're not getting those game-saving tackles by the free safety. Hickman's got to bring that guy down kind of deal. So it's always a combination of many things, not just one guy. But that's what's happening. Those four issues are happening all the time right now with this defense.
Let's talk about the offensive line too. That's obviously been a topic of discussion. We saw Cam Robinson get beat pretty badly on that fourth down. How is this offensive line playing right now?
Well, I actually thought they played fairly decent this week. They had some good movement inside. And if you think about double teams, their run game was a little bit better. Obviously, the Bills' run defense wasn't as good, but I don't really buy into like the run defense wasn't as good or yards per attempt. Those has nothing to do with like how football sometimes works. The yards per attempt, like for Shedeur, who cares? If that's where they give him, that's the yards you want him to take, right? In the run game, I thought they did a really nice job of moving people backwards a little bit better. So on those double teams, and we always talk about you're in charge of a guy on the line of scrimmage and a linebacker. And the two guys that are blocking, one of them will come off depending on where the linebacker goes. Well, the easiest way to do that, and the way the Browns have done it for years, is they knock the defensive lineman into the next guy, and then it's really, really easy. What they're not doing this year is they're not moving anybody vertically backwards. I thought they did that a little bit better. And then the pass protection is what it is. Cam Robinson, KT Levinston, these inside Jenkins, they're not very good pass protectors. And for whatever reason, now I think KT Levinston will be an outstanding guard, and I hope they move him down inside. Cam Robinson has taken a step back because when his breakdown coming from Washington was a lot better in pass protection. So that's how I had broken out too. He's really struggling with pass protection. So the run game is getting better. Pass protection is what it's been, for 5 weeks, 6 weeks, 7 weeks. And the only thing I would say is that you can't leave them by themselves. You can't be mad about the result you're going to get. My dad used to say, like, well, okay, we can't block him, so we can't just leave one guy in him, then that's our fault. So they got to help those tackles. It seems kind of redundant, but they got to get the ball out. And anytime they're going to hold on to it more than 2.8, they got to chip because they're just no chance.
And then one last thing here, obviously with the run game, it's going to go into the hands now of Rocket Sanders and Williams. Those two guys, I thought they did a decent job when they got thrown into the fire on Sunday. What did you think of what those two brought? And I'm curious what you think of. I'm curious what you think of Rocket Sanders specifically, because if one of those two guys is going to stick around for a little while, it might be him.
I was really impressed with him, especially what they want to do in the run game. Tommy Reese is a power guy coming from Notre Dame and his background at Alabama, and Brian Kelly and Nick Saban. So he likes to get in those big sets and run the ball. That shortens the game, kind of helps that offense out. I thought he looked really good. I thought he ran really hard. I thought he hit the hole. I think he understands where the guys are blocking. You could tell he's paying attention in meetings because a lot of times when those backs get in, they're ultra aggressive and they miss holes or they're not patient enough. I thought he did a great job of being patient, seeing where the blocks are coming from, and then exploding. He runs really heavy. He's got really good contact balance. So I think Williams, you're going to get what he got. Williams is a really good pro. He'll block. He'll do well in pass protection. He'll run screens well. But in terms of running downhill in the gap scheme and in the weak side zone, I'm really looking forward to seeing Sanders, especially this week against his odd front against the Pittsburgh Steelers. I was really impressed with him. I thought his contact balance and his burst was really good.
Okay, let's get to it. Our question of the week here as we head into Christmas.
It's almost like our Christmas show, right?
If you're on the if you're on the YouTube, Lance is wearing a very festive hat today.
All right, so question of the day for you. If you think about top 10 colleges with the most NFL players, so you're going to give me 10 colleges that have produced the most NFL players since they started keeping track.
Okay. So I'm going to just start with a bunch of obvious ones here. I'm just going to give you 10 and you tell me how many I actually get at the end here.
All right.
All right. We're going to go Alabama. We're going to go
Correct.
Notre Dame.
Correct.
We're going to go Ohio State.
Correct.
Michigan.
Correct.
What's bad is I'm gonna leave some super obvious ones out here because I'm just working off the top of my head here. So I've said Alabama, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Michigan, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let me think. This is a random one. Wisconsin?
No.
Okay. Let's see. So I'm 4 out of 5. Let's see if I can come up with 5 more here. Let's go on the West Coast. Let's go USC.
Correct.
Okay, I was figuring they had to be on the list.
You got and I will tell you, you got 1 through 5. Notre Dame is 1, USC is 2, Ohio State is 3, Michigan is 4, Alabama is 5. So you got the top 5, not necessarily in order, but you got the top 5. So you have 6 through 10 you have to get.
Let me think. I'm trying to jog my memory for somebody that was like an old powerhouse, but they maybe aren't as powerful. What about like Nebraska?
Nope.
Okay. Texas.
Nope.
Wow. Let me think. Oklahoma?
Correct. Number 9.
Okay.
6, 7, 8, 10 are still available for you.
Is Penn State on the list?
Penn State is on the list, number 7.
Okay.
That's the one that was my last one I got.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking about them and yeah. So because they kind of fit in that category of like they're still sending guys to the pros, but also back in the day they were like powerhouse.
Yeah.
Let's see. I tried Nebraska already. I said Oklahoma already. I haven't said a single Florida school. So, all right, let's see. Let's start with which one do I want to start with? Miami.
Nope.
Really?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Florida State.
Nope.
Oh, well, there's one left. Florida.
There you go. Florida's number 10.
Georgia.
Number 8. You have 1 left.
Okay.
I'll give you 3 chances.
I left the Southeast out there for a while. So
all right, I'll give you 3 give you 3 guesses for number 6 on the list.
Wow, I actually am surprised how well I did here. Well, I know it's not the Kent State Golden Flash as I'm looking at that helmet behind you, even though they've produced some pros. I know it's not them.
I mean, it's okay to guess them. No, it's really this kind of you.
Is it? Let me ask you this: is it somebody I would expect, or is it like really those guys?
No, you'll be when you hear it, you go, yeah, it makes sense.
Okay.
It's a definite makes sense.
LSU.
LSU is number 6. That's pretty good.
I knew I was going to forget somebody
pretty
obvious, and then LSU popped in my head. Yeah. So I
well
really
done
only
by
missed
you.
like a couple of them.
Yeah, just a couple. And you know what? And those are like Nebraska's a good choice. I mean, and your misses were solid swings and misses. So
Well, yeah, and I was thinking
well
like Wisconsin has produced all these like the
offensive linemen,
like JJ Watt and Joe Thomas, and like Nebraska had some Heisman winners and they were a powerhouse for Tom Osborne, and I thought about Iowa too. Like, is Iowa going to be in there real sneaky, just a bunch of tight ends and stuff? But yeah, there we go.
How about Notre Dame's had 644 pros?
It's incredible.
It's an incredible number, right? I didn't have them at all.
You didn't have them on your list at all?
No, I had them I didn't have them at all. Like at number 1. I mean, they're on the list, but I didn't think number 1. That's pretty impressive, I thought.
Yeah. I'm surprised.
Well done by
I'm surprised I got that.
I'm not. I'm not at all. We do a lot. We do a lot of football, my friend. Lot of breakdowns,
Oh
my friend.
man. Well, the interesting question is who's gonna like take over that list here? Like who are the schools that are gonna like maybe have a chance to get on that list in the next 10 to 20 years, right? Like in Oregon.
Yeah,
Could they get
Oregon will
on
be there.
there? I'm actually
That's a
really
great question.
surprised like Texas isn't
Texas
on
will be,
that
I bet, yeah.
list, but I bet they could make a push.
Hmm.
Um,
Well, all the Fuller schools,
yeah.
Miami, Florida State for sure.
Yeah, I was
Um,
surprised it was only one of those. I was surprised
and then you're
Miami
gonna,
wasn't.
yeah, and then all the SEC teams you could at some point in time could make a run
Auburn.
depending on yeah, depending
Auburn
on where
was
the
I was wondering if maybe Auburn would be on there.
I mean, you can make a case any SEC team, especially if you get laying out whoever lays out the money. You're going to get some sneaky people coming up here soon because people are going to pay the
That's true.
money.
They're not gonna get on the list anytime soon, but they're gonna start producing more and more pros. Indiana.
No doubt.
Like, it's gonna take a
Yep.
long time to catch up on that list, but
Indiana's shelling
if
out some big NIL money.
yeah,
That's for
for
sure.
if we take, like, a 5-year window from, like, starting last year through, like, let's say 5, 10 years from now, I bet Indiana would be on that list, like, the
That's
smaller.
a great question too. Who are the next? Here's the 10. Who are the next 5 on the list? That would have been a good
Yeah,
question
and then,
too.
like, Ohio State will stay on there,
Michigan will
Alabama will
stay on
stay
there.
on there.
Yeah, that top 5 will be pretty solid, I think.
Yeah.
And then, but I think you can move some of the people in the. I mean, I mean, you go back to those top 5 have been good forever. The Blue Bloods,
Yeah, with Notre Dame, are we going back to, like, I don't know.
4 Horsemen.
Yeah, all the way back
Oh
to, like, the
yeah,
4 where they're throwing people over the line.
that's right. Absolutely. The forward pass just started.
Scouting
Absolutely.
scouting was not very advanced back then. It was just like, "Go to Notre
No,
Dame and find me somebody really good."
and I need a tackle. Go get the Notre Dame tackle. Absolutely right.
And the greatest of all time maybe came from Syracuse.
It's true.
So
Little
there you
Jim,
go.
maybe the best lacrosse player of all
I
time as well.
know. That's the
You look-
trick right there when somebody
I mean, if
brings
you
up
ask
Jim Brown.
people, you talk to some good lacrosse people, they will tell you he's probably the best lacrosse player of all time too, which is kind of scary thinking about him on a lacrosse field. I mean, what do you do with that guy on a lacrosse
Yeah,
field?
right, with
Says
those
get out of his way. Says get out of his way.
with those old sticks and, like, that was crazy.
Yeah, there's no like concussion protocol. He was just knocking people out, knocking people out every day.
All right. Well, that was a good one. I impressed myself. I didn't think I'd do very
Well
well on
done.
that, but all right,
Well
there we
done, Mr.
go.
Labbe. Well done, my friend.
Okay, well, that was Lance Reisland. That'll do it for this edition of the Orange and Brown Talk podcast. Our YouTube is Cleveland Browns on cleveland.com. Our Instagram is Orange and Brown Talk. Our Twitter is Orange Brown Talk. If you're not a football insider, subscribe to cleveland.com/Browns, the blue banner at the top of the page for that. You heard from Mary Kay earlier. That was Lance. Lance, have a Merry Christmas.
You as well, my friend. Merry Christmas.
All right, and we will talk to everyone later. Thanks for listening.